Welcome to the Marketing Stir podcast by Starista, probably the most entertaining marketing podcast you're going to put in your ears. I'm Jared Walls, associate producer and Starista's creative copy manager. The goal of this podcast is to chat with industry leaders to get their take on the current challenges of the market, but also have a little fun along the way. In this episode, Vincent and Ajay chat with Sam Huston, Chief Strategy Officer at 3Q Digital. He discusses the importance of client diversification, as well as the push for authenticity in marketing. He also delves into why false urgency is always a bad tactic. Ajay gets another nickname, and Vincent mails some socks. Give it a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first recorded episode, at least, of 2021 of the Marketing Stir. Happy New Year. You guys, by the time this comes out, you'll be like, really? Are you still saying Happy New Year? It's like June. It won't be that long. It won't be that long. Oh my goodness. We are so happy to be back. I'm here hosting this. What a crazy year, obviously, but what a great year as far as the Marketing Stir goes. When Ajay and I and the producers thought of doing a podcast, I think our first episode, there was like maybe 87 listeners, that we've grown to, 44,000, hopefully more by the time this comes out, listeners. And amazing guests. It'll take too long to name them all. But if you look at some of the B2C brands that we learned from, right? Regal Cinemas, Pearl Vision. We also learned from B2B brands like SAP, InnoMinds, Amazon, amazing agencies that we've spoke to on the B2B and B2C side, Mechanism, Shermer, Stein IAS. The list is too long to go through, and we are very fortunate to have a list like that. I'm very fortunate to have this co-host, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard him on the podcast with me, the pride of Starista and San Antonio, Mr. Ajay Gupta. What's going on, Ajay?
I thought I was the slayer of San Antonio, but I like this pride of San Antonio.
Pride of San Antonio. I do a different intro. At least I try every time. The San Antonio Slayer. There's so many I could go through.
You know what? I'm gonna try to return the favor this year. We'll do reverse introductions.
I like it. I like it.
The king of WeWorks.
That's it. The king of I'm at a WeWork. I like it. I like the spirit of Starista. How about that? I recently. I don't take this thing lightly. I was awarded the Spirit of Starista Award this year at our annual awards. And there's only a few of those awards that go out. Let's not make it seem like everyone's getting an award. I know this is 2021 where everyone needs to get an award. But hey, I'm very prideful that I received that award. I love that there. But yes, the pride of Starista and San Antonio you are, Ajay. Come on.
Yeah, no, I think you'll be getting that engraved and shortly on your desk whenever the Postal Service gets around to it.
I love it. I love it. How were the holidays for you, Ajay? What's good?
It's good. It was different than usual. Obviously, we had our virtual summit this year instead of the big holiday get-together and the sales training we do. So different, but I would say we are fortunate, all of us, to be here, and we are, as a company, growing through the pandemic. So even though it's a new world, I think we've adapted very well.
Yeah, I think so. Did you get those socks I sent you?
I did. I was hoping you didn't bring him up because I was going to save it for the next episode.
Oh, yeah? It's it. Well, you said you were going to save it. That's okay. You can wear them for the next episode. I could bring it up on the next episode. I'm going to bring it up on every episode until I see you wear them. How about that? I got to, that was for a job well done. Ajay, a lot of CEOs, I hope, do this, but Ajay, often when we will come on and help with new client pitches, and we were awarded some amazing new business from a new client with Ajay's help, which is amazing. We love all of our clients, and that was I'm very thankful for that, AJ. So I sent you 3 or 4 pairs of engraved
I
socks. Trying to,
certainly appreciated it. It didn't have your name on it, so I really thought the sock company was trying to just say thank you.
yeah,
They
that'd be
said,
great. A
thank you
shout
for your
out,
business.
shout out for Nice Laundry. That's who did it. Maybe they will send me some. VJP are my initials. So send me some more. But enough about that. Again, I mentioned so many great companies that we've had on, so many great agencies. We have another amazing agency. I'm so glad I was introduced to this agency, to this gentleman who's going to be joining us on this call. What a great way, ladies and gentlemen, to kick off 2021 as far as the recorded episode. We have other episodes already coming out that I hope you enjoy. I know you'll enjoy. But please help me welcome. We've got 3Q Digital on today, ladies and gentlemen. And we've got the Chief Strategy Officer. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sam Huston. What's going on, Sam?
Not much. Thank you very much. I'm incredibly honored to be the first person this year. I think, coming off of last year, which was such a crazy year, it's really great to be here. And I think this is just a great way to start the year. So thank you very much for having me.
We're happy to have you, Sam. We wanted to learn more about 3Q Digital. We want to learn more. I love this title, right? Strategy Officer.
Yeah.
It's come up on a few more, but I'll get into that in a moment. You're calling in from Denver. People could see, of those who are viewing us on YouTube. We were joking earlier on, and the pre-call there, where Sam's in a beautiful basement. That's not a background. That's his actual basement.
That's my actual basement.
I love it. And now, me living in New York City, I was like, well, what's a basement? San Antonio apparently doesn't have basements either. I just learned that a little while ago. I don't know what that's about. I guess maybe they don't dig into the ground.
Yeah,
What's about?
I don't think you could really dig into the rocky layers we have, so that makes sense.
Yeah, but they could do it in Denver. That's the Rocky Mountains out there. I don't get it, but anyway. Oh no, Sam, I know. What do I know? I'm just just a New Yorker here. I have no idea. But anyway, Sam, tell us about, first off, 3Q Digital.
Yeah, 3Q Digital is a full service growth marketing agency. We were started, I think, about 12 years ago, really focused on search and SEO and SEM, and over time have evolved. And now we have a full service creative team. We're working across all digital channels, and we're really focused on driving performance for our clients across those digital channels.
That's awesome. We're going to get into more on some of the clients that you serve and who would be an ideal client for you there. Chief Strategy Officer, right? Is that, tell us about that. I love that title. It's a fairly new title, I think, out there, right? Because it's one of those, the growth strategy. It's a very necessary title, but talk to us about what you're doing there for 3Q Digital. To walk us through a day in the life.
Yeah, so the strategy title is an interesting one. I think it's an evolving role within agencies. I think historically it's really been focused on clients and helping clients to make purposeful choices about what they should do across media. And I think more and more it's become more twofold. So for me, not only am I working across clients and helping clients to start to make those purposeful decisions and be really intelligent about who they're talking to, where they're talking to them, how they're speaking to them, what media channels they're using, how they're using those channels, but there's also an agency aspect to it. So what are we doing as an agency to continue to evolve? I mean, I think we've all felt the need to be more agile through the pandemic and through what happened last year. We need to be very quick on our feet, and thinking strategically as a business is more important too. So my role is really twofold, spending time with clients and writing strategies and developing strategies for clients, but also thinking about the agency and where we need to go next. What are the services we need to build out? What are the changes we need to make within our existing services to be on the cutting edge, to make sure that we're always delivering best in class work for our clients? And so, a typical day in the life is a little bit of both. I have times where there's some really internal focused conversations about, how are we delivering search? Are we best in class in search? What are we doing with data? What are the data resources we need to make sure our teams are really well informed? How are we going to approach commerce in 2021 for our clients? What does that look like? But also there's times, when I'm spending time talking to clients and helping them to try to think strategically about the challenges they're facing. I think clients are, so much has changed. There's so much volatility in the marketplace. there's just a greater need for more strategic thinking.
And Sam, I saw you also majored in English, much
Yeah, I
like
did.
me. So how did you get into the media and marketing world from there?
You know, for me, so it's interesting. My father was a radio announcer his entire career, so very similar. And into the advertising side, my great grandfather was actually an art director. He was he did the original drawing of the Morton Salt girl when it rains it pours, and so
Oh yeah.
it always had always been on my radar, and it was something that I had thought about. And then after college, you know, I took the requisite year off and ski. If you live in Colorado, you grow up in Colorado, you got to spend a winter skiing. So I did that. I wasn't sure. I had done some internships in marketing, and I had a buddy who actually moved to San Francisco at the time and started working at an agency. And he said, you know, I got to come out and try it. And so that was the impetus. After a season in the mountains, I packed up my truck and moved to San Francisco and got an agency job. The cool thing was, I think from an English perspective, you know, I started at Y&R in their media department, and you know, I think just the ability to create narratives around target audiences and how those audiences move through the world was really interesting. I think it aligned with where I was going from an English perspective, and it's something that I really fell in love with.
Yeah, I think that's the nice thing about the English major is it's so flexible. You see
Absolutely.
English majors in a lot of different facets of life.
And I think it teaches you critical skills in terms of pulling those insights out, you know, reading, sifting through lots of material, pulling out the powerful points, and then making sense of those powerful points in the context of the larger world. And I think that's a skill set that you can apply in lots of different ways across lots of different industries.
So obviously, Sam, in the last 12 months have been, you know, hard on a lot of the large agency holding companies.
Yeah.
And the revenue has been declining for them in general, but in particular after the pandemic. How have you guys coped with the pandemic? Have you made any pivots or changes that have helped you get through it?
Yeah, we've been very fortunate to weather the pandemic fairly well. We haven't had a huge impact. 2020 was a great year for us from a business standpoint, but we did have to make some pivots. You know, I think one of the things that helped us is we have 3 different business units within 3Q. So we have 3Q Accelerate and Incubate, which are designed to service some of the smaller clients. We have 3Q Digital, which is sort of the hub of where we sit, and then we have 3QE, which is our enterprise clients. And so having that client diversification positioned us really well to weather the pandemic. So we had, you know, as all agencies experienced, we had some clients that were pretty severely impacted and budgets went to zero, and you know, we had to work less with those clients. But overall, because of that diversification, we were able to weather the pandemic fairly well. I think the other thing is that we had a pretty flexible working style going into that. And so the migration to 100% remote work was less impactful for us. And immediately one of the things we started was created a committee around a productivity committee to think through what remote work looks like for us, and start to think through some of the things and how we start to replicate the things that are great about an office. So when you're in an office, there's lots of really wonderful things in terms of how know-how is shared, and the small conversations that happen in between meetings where a lot of the learning and knowledge sharing happens, and that instantly goes away when everyone's remote. And how do we start to create that? The other thing that I think is really important is just the idea of serendipity and happenstance. And those are critical in driving innovation. When you don't have an office or a shared location, those are things that go away. And so our productivity task force is really focused on bringing that sense of serendipity to a remote environment, really starting to examine how we start to share know-how in a remote environment. And I think just even starting to think through that and test different things and realize that things were never going to be as they were has really helped us to manage through the pandemic.
And let's talk about San Francisco.
Yeah.
When you were there, you moved there. Was that what was kind of the agency scene there? Was it sort of the obvious, you working with a lot of software
Yeah.
companies?
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I moved in 2000. So at the time, the dot-com bubble was still building. So a lot of my early experience was on startups and dot-coms. Some of the bigger tech companies like Adobe or Novell, if you can remember that. I worked on the launch of TiVo. So a lot of tech companies. It was a great place. It was a great time to be in San Francisco. It was really exciting. The bubble burst, and that made things a little bit more challenging. But I think for me, that was a real pivotal point in my career to really learn that sense of resilience and what it means to go through those challenging times. And it gave me a unique perspective on media and advertising as a result of that. But yeah, it was super exciting. And you know, I'm still really close friends with all the people that I worked with back then. And you know, those relationships have carried through my career, which has been great. And I loved living in the Bay Area. I miss it now. I grew up in Denver, which is why we're back now. My family's still out here, and obviously I love to ski and head up to the mountains every minute I can. So, but yeah, I still miss it. It's a great place.
Sam, I know you got onboarded during the pandemic, but has there been a kind of a highlight or something that really stood out during your short time?
Well, I think you know, the thing that I love about our industry is that you know, it's a team business. It's a people business, and we're all part of teams. And just, I think some of the things that have really stood out to me is just, you know, in pitching and how those teams are coming together, and we're pitching to businesses, which is, you know, as we all know, kind of a high stress moment, and doing that remotely creates even more stress in some ways. But the ability to come together as a team, to pull together the materials to pitch, and then have those meetings with clients, to me, those are some of the best things that we've been doing so far this year. I think the work that our productivity task force is doing, and as we explore those ideas of serendipity and know-how, I think has been really great to me. And just seeing that sense of agility and the resilience as we make those changes in real time has been really, really exciting over the last couple weeks, couple months.
Sam, you have quite a few kind of marquee clients that you
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
Would you mind sharing with our viewers who are kind of give us a couple of examples of clients you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, I mean, we have a wide range of clients. We have, you know, large clients like Facebook. We have large clients like LinkedIn. We have B2B clients like Procore. We have Skechers. And then we have a number of like startup clients like Precision Nutrition, and smaller clients that are more going directly B2C and have a different business model. And I think what's really exciting to me about that is that, you know, when we're working with those smaller clients, everything happens much faster. They're less adverse to risk, and we're learning new things at a much faster rate than we are for some of our larger enterprise clients. And so we've been able to set up a system whereby we can take the learnings from the less risk averse clients and start to apply those, or to the clients that are a little bit risk averse. And that takes a lot of that risk and that fear and uncertainty off the table, which is incredibly exciting. And to see how things happen at a really fast pace on those smaller, hungrier clients, and seeing how that can then unlock really big performance gains for our larger clients is really fun.
Sam, have you noticed a greater push for authenticity in marketing?
Yeah.
And are there ways that you're addressing that in particular within your role?
Yeah, for sure. I think anytime, you know, regardless of how you feel politically, what we're seeing is less and less trust in standard institutions. And people are now transferring that trust to brands, which means brands have to be more authentic. They have to be true to who they are. And that's certainly been happening for the last few years. I also think that, you know, if you go back through business, there's been an interesting sort of evolution as like in the 80s when it was all about quality and Six Sigma and Kaizen, and through the 90s as you started to move into digital, the early 2000s as innovation became really, really important. And now that's evolved to where products are really, really great. Brands need to look to something else to build those emotional connections with consumers. And authenticity certainly is that. I think in the digital environment where that comes where we really start to feel that is in privacy issues and making sure that we're being very trusted with the data that's shared with us, and we're creating that value exchange so that consumers know that we're not going to use their data in ways that they're not going to be comfortable with, that as a brand we want to build those more emotional connections with them. So that means that we're not going to advertise in certain environments, that we're going to look at digital media in a very specific way, and protecting that authenticity through media is incredibly important and a big part of what we think about from a strategy perspective. I think, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Sam. No.
I think where it gets dangerous is around, there's been a focus on purpose and brands aligning with a purpose. And I think there has been times when brands have lost their way and just aligned with a purpose because it was convenient and easy, instead of really aligning with what it means to their product and to who they are and what their original intention was as a company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like brands do need to be more authentic, but in the right way, right?
Yeah.
I think they need to do it more engaging,
Yeah.
more personalized, not only on the consumer side, but also in B2B marketing as well. There's emotions there. So, at 3Q, you're doing both B2B and B2C.
Yeah.
So you answered that question for me. I'd love to dig into some of the nitty gritty as far as marketing. This is the Marketing Stir. We have many marketing professionals who are listening to the podcast. Some of the marketing tactics you're using for your clients. You mentioned SEO and SEM.
Yep.
Are you also helping them with customer acquisition, brand awareness? Are you doing display, OTT, connected TV? Talk to us about some of the nitty gritty that you're doing with these customers.
I think the big focus for us is, a couple things. One, every client is at a different life stage when it comes to digital marketing. And so what we've built is a growth framework to help understand where those clients are and how we need to migrate them into more of that full funnel approach. So it's capitalized, and our capitalized clients are ones that are just starting to dabble in performance media. For those clients, we're doing SEO, we're doing SEM, we're doing social, a lot of the real performance type, consumer acquisition type channels. Then we have breakthrough, and that's where you're starting to use that data, the data that comes off of those channels in new ways, and starting to expand beyond just those channels, understanding how all channels work together. And then our lead clients are ones where we're doing more of that full funnel, all within a digital landscape. So we're developing performance creative. We're using display and OTT and video in ways to increase volume. We're looking at the mid funnel and making sure that we're capturing data from clients in that mid funnel, and then reusing that data to start to convert those clients at the bottom of the funnel. And I think what becomes really important, and where we're really focused now, is understanding how all of those channels work together to create value. As we start to think about creating volume at the top of the funnel, that's really about efficiency metrics and making sure that we're spending in the right ways in the right places, and really looking at efficiency. And as we move to the bottom of the funnel, it becomes much more about effectiveness and looking at ROAS and ROI and more of the financial metrics around how we're capturing those customers. I think where it's starting to get really interesting now is how we think about those channels. I mean, historically, people have thought about SEM and even SEO as really bottom of the funnel conversion channels. And if you start to look at the role they're playing in the lives of people now, they're really more mid funnel channels, and they're really about margin management. And you think about our enterprise clients, where some of them have wholesale relationships, some of them have direct to consumer, owned and operated stores, some of them have fully functional websites they're selling through, and a robust app environment. So where they're creating and offering new services, and using search as a way to manage that margin by understanding who made that search, and then driving that person to the most profitable environment for them to then purchase that product. For some people, it may be, let's get them in the app and we get them signed up and they have more regular purchase. For some people, this is more of a wholesale customer. Let's drive them directly to that wholesale environment. And so I think that's where it starts to get interesting. And then thinking about how all the channels start to support that migration to very specific margin numbers is really interesting.
And so I'm kind of thinking about your value proposition versus some of the other agencies? What's sort of kind of the big distinguishing factor that you go in with when pitching against a similar sized agency?
Well, I think one of the big things is our legacy and expertise and experience in the marketplace. So, we were born out of performance and have grown up through that. And I think that's a very different point of view on agencies that have sort of found their way back into digital. I think the other thing for us is having that growth model in place and understanding where a client is, and then developing the services and roadmaps to advance them through that. So, if someone comes to us and they just are interested in search, we're happy to do that, but we also know how to take them to the next level, and we have a process and an experimentation framework to help them do that. And I think those are some of the things that are a difference maker when you start to think about 3Q. I think the other thing is just our agility. I think when you start to talk to a lot of other performance agencies, they sort of have a house style in that they'll structure all the accounts in the same way. They have standardized approach to how they're approaching digital display, to how they're approaching search, to how they're approaching social. And when you look at the landscape today, every client is very unique and different, and there's a need to create a unique structure. There's some forms of automation across the platforms that will work with certain clients. There's some automation that won't work for some clients, and having that experimentation framework in place and the ability to test and learn in real time is a real difference maker, because that's how you're going to start to see those large incremental gains.
So it's always interesting to learn about how agencies go about getting their own business and getting their own clients.
Yeah.
So, would love to know more about how your own sales and marketing teams are structured as well.
Yeah, we have one of the things that was unique to me and a little bit different from the other agencies I've worked at 3Q is it's just the strength and the scale of our new biz and marketing team. So we have a really strong new business team that's focused on, inbound client generation, taking on the pitches that come up, working with the pitch consultants. And they're tied very closely to our outbound marketing team. And so really focused on creating the types of content that's going to draw attraction, but also thinking about how we productize what we do. And one of the things that's been, I think coming over the last couple of years, as you think about agencies, is a real need for flexibility in how they work with clients. Some clients are moving towards in-housing and they just need some consulting. Some clients are half in-house, half out of the house, and some clients are willing to work with agencies. And having our product marketing team to build and refine those products that are flexible enough to work across any type of client relationship has been a huge advantage for us. And I think having that rigor around defining our products and defining them in a way that's agile and flexible has been just a huge advantage for us.
And Sam, you talked earlier about data. Strista is a data company, so we of course understand the importance of data.
100%.
But for yourself, your role there, for people listening, what are some of the most important things to keep in mind when converting data into actionable insights?
Well, I think the first thing is that there is a surplus of actionable data, and so making sure that you're identifying the data that's most actionable is the first step, and then using that to build what I call systems of insight. And so for me, I think it's really important as you're building insights to have that system in place of knowing here's where I can get the qualitative data that I'm going to need, here's where I can get the quantitative data I need, and here's where I can get sort of the performance data on top of that to help validate where I'm going. And so my approach is always to go in with a hypothesis and work as hard as I can across my systems of insight to start to disprove that. And so what I end up doing is a lot of apples to oranges comparison. I think, historically people have been against that, but I think from an insight perspective, that's the strongest place to start from right off the bat. So, look at things at opposite ends of the spectrum to start to see where that data, where that story is starting tell, and as you start to look at those opposite ends of the spectrum, you start to see stories emerge, and then you start to look at the performance data that supports that, and out of that you start to develop real actionable insights, which then helps you make those purposeful choices. In my mind, strategy is really just a purposeful choice supported with data. So we're going to do this and not that because of this story the data is telling us. And that's, as in its simplest form, that's what strategy is. And so really starting to as you're getting those insights, really starting to unlock what that purposeful choice is. We shouldn't target this audience. We should target this audience. We shouldn't, PLAs aren't working. They're shopping in a different way. Let's look at using some of the other, shopping platforms in a new way.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing some of your data principles. Let's go over to marketing. Some of your overall marketing principles and beliefs that you have, Sam, that you've either taken with you from other companies, that you live by now. Love to hear those.
I think, one of the things, I've been pretty fortunate in my career to work at a lot of different agencies. I started at Y&R in their media department, which became Media Edge, which now I think is Group M. And, through that experience, I learned a lot of the science of media, reach and frequency, how to calculate that, looking at audiences, and having that foundation in the science is something that I've always carried with me, and making sure that, behind every single data point is a person, and making sure that we understand the people behind those data points is one of the tenets that I've always tried to follow. It's important that we chase people and not technology, that we chase people and not trends and fads. Certainly those help to influence how we're thinking about culture and the culture in which audiences exist, but always having our focus on people is one of the things that has been very important to me. And the other thing that I think I learned very early on is that, media is a huge expenditure, and it's a massive investment for brands, and treating that investment with the respect and care that it deserves is really, really important. Treating those dollars as your own, and not just recommending media, and really investigating every investment, I think is incredibly important. And then just being transparent through all that, realizing that brands are making these investments to overcome big challenges. They need to know exactly where it's going and how those dollars are going to work. And that level of transparency and honesty and forthrightness is incredibly important when dealing with clients. I think the tendency is to just, and sometimes shy away from those hard conversations, but really leaning into that and being open and honest about what you're seeing happening is incredibly important.
Oops, I muted myself there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
Sam, what's some of your marketing pet peeves? Something that really annoys you when you see other people doing marketing?
Oh, that's a tough one. I hate to judge other people. I always.
We want names. We want names, Sam. We need you to point out the brand. No, I'm kidding.
There's always some reason why somebody did something, but I think I think one of the things that bothers me now, just because I'm conflicted on it, is this idea of micro-targeting, where they're creating all these really tiny audiences. I think the data shows overwhelmingly that no longer really works, and that, I think context is just as important as who you're targeting. And so I think when I hear people start talking about all these micro audiences that they're targeting and building these mini campaigns, to me, I kind of laugh at it. I personally don't think that really works as hard as just aligning your audience with the context in which you're reaching them to create that more emotional connection.
I agree with you there. I think as great as it is to have data, when people want to slice and dice into hundreds of campaigns, and nobody wants to pay to run that many campaigns either, but 100%. They still want it.
Yeah, it happens a lot. And I hear clients talk about it. The other thing I think is when people are just set sort of arbitrary numbers. We need to have 1 million keywords. Okay, all right, we can do that. But maybe there's another way to think about it.
Yeah, I want 1 million customers. It's like, well, yeah, me too. But like, we can help you get there, but it's not going to be $5,000. It's
So
Yeah, I
the
think
other
those kinds
question we like to add, somewhat related to this, is LinkedIn related. It's one of our staple questions. So, and the question is, I'm sure with your job title, you get a lot of LinkedIn messages where a lot of people are reaching out to you. What's kind of a message that you read and you actually respond to and accept the connection? And what's one that annoys you? And if you don't want to answer the second one because you don't want to name names, that's okay as well.
He already did. He already did. No, I'm
well,
kidding.
I think the ones that are always annoying are when people are trying to trick you into responding. Like they put something in there that's like, falsely urgent or falsely personal. And I think like where I'm like, oh, what's this? And then it's like, and then it goes into some sales pitch. I think the ones that are always best are when they have an understanding of our business and they have an understanding of some of the real challenges that I might be thinking about, and offer an insight or a perspective right at the beginning that might be provocative and kind of pique my interest, because then I'm going to think, wow, that's an interesting perspective that I hadn't heard before. It's definitely worth me setting up time to meet with these people to figure out what their perspective is on, whatever product or service they're trying to sell.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn has made the word partnership such a bad word. As soon as you hear it, it's a one-way partnership. It's, you give me money and I'll sell you something.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that, and people are, and I get it. Everyone's got a job to do and they're working, and I understand that. And I want to be fair and try to meet with as many people as possible, because you just never know what the next thing might be. Things are changing so fast. It's just, when the email starts off that's sort of disingenuous, it makes it hard to even see the possibility of that partnership going somewhere.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was duped twice recently on LinkedIn, where like, hey, we have so many connections. I would just love to connect with you. And I'm just thinking, okay, like we're just gonna be friends. Like, what's gonna happen? And then as soon as you hit accept, it's like, bink, you get that pop up, and it's like, boop, 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 boop. And I'm like, oh man, I was duped. I should know better. I do a podcast about LinkedIn pet peeves. Well, it's not what the podcast is about.
Actually, you know what? I got the best one yesterday. It invited me to speak at it called me Dr. Gupta, so that was kind of cool.
Beautiful.
But it invited me to speak at a vaccination conference in France. And it looked, actually, I clicked on the website, it looked kind of real. So I was thinking maybe they confused me with a different Dr. Ajay Gupta.
Yeah. Well, there's Sanjay. There's the famous Dr. Sanjay Gupta, right? The guy on CNN, right? Imagine, that's where you do your research and learn a little bit about the company.
I did accept, by the way.
I know. He's like, oh, that's a great way. Call someone doctor. That's a pretty great way to get in there. I love it. That's a new one out there. Sam, AJ and I work with and support a lot of different groups, especially that are focused towards students in marketing. As far as the Marketing Edge, I'm part of the Direct Marketing Club of New York. Renew your membership, people. It's the new year. But also, Sam, advice for students coming out into this field, media, marketing. You've done so many different aspects of this field at very well-known companies. What's some of your advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always a great question. I think, when I'm working with the younger generation of marketers now, I think there's a couple things that I think are really important. And one is don't underestimate the power of the relationships you're going to build. I think so much of what we do historically has been, we're all people, and there historically has been a divide between work and life. And I think through the pandemic, that divide is kind of going away. And the more that you can bring who you are to work, especially in our industry, the more important it is. And to celebrate, don't feel like you have to put on a work persona and then your home persona. Like, we're all humans, And the more diverse and different and unique that we can be, the stronger our strategies become, the stronger we become as an agency. And I think more and more I want to see people break through those walls between life and work and just have it all be life. And I think that goes with, just, it's okay to be a beginner. Bring that sense of beginning and curiosity to what you do, and bring who you are, because that's why we hired you. And the other thing that I think is really important is just to do the work. And I feel like there's a little bit of a, in our industry, it's a people business. So we're selling people, we're selling the work. And the thing that's going to unlock, and we're all here for our own personal financial gain. And the thing that's going to unlock that the fastest for all of us is good work. And so if you commit yourself to doing the best possible work, you will continue to succeed and grow. And if your North Star becomes the best work and not getting that promotion or making that connection, then success will become much faster, because what there's a scarcity of is really great work. There's tons of people that want a promotion. There's tons of people that feel like they need that are super ambitious and want to get to the top of the ladder as fast as possible. There's a scarcity of people that want to dig in and put in the effort to do really great work. And that's where the most fun happens, and that's where the fastest career advancement happens.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's great advice, Sam. I love also the fact of the work and home life. And I think that's more true in this last year, because I remember a time where you didn't want, if you had to work from home, you didn't want any distractions. If your kid ran in, you're like, no, what are you doing? Now it's part of it. It's part of life. If your kid jumps up on you and it slaps you in the face like mine does sometimes and just runs away, that's just part of life. And just bring that. I also tell students as well, or even people at a company you're just starting, you're a new employee, put some time on people's calendar. The other employees, the C-level executives, the vice presidents, like, pick their brains. Don't be scared to do that. So I love that. Another question I have is Jump Tank. Tell us about Jump Tank and your work there. We work with the students. We love that here at Starista and the Marketing Stir. So tell us about that.
That was an amazing experience for me. So Jump Tank was a small group of innovators that sat within the Dentsu Aegis network. It was Dentsu Aegis at the time. We worked across all the Dentsu Aegis brands, helping them with their clients from an innovation perspective and also a strategy perspective. At the time, we had a relationship with the MIT Media Lab. So I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of time going up to the lab and just working with the students there. And I think certainly that was a time in my career where I learned a lot more from the students than I'm sure they learned from me. And I think the really interesting thing was just to see they were just doing whatever they wanted to do because they thought it was cool to do it. So, they would get an Xbox and then hack the camera to create some new way to watch TV or to share data through their television. And, just building these really amazing things without the constraints of business, because they were in this environment. And I think we spend, once you get into a business and there's, P&Ls and financial goals that you need to hit, the constraints become the focus. And just to spend time with students who, were just incredibly passionate about what they were working on, whether that was 3D printing, whether that was, creating tools in which, video tools in which autistic children could start to read emotions better based on how people were reacting. Like, it was just really inspiring and amazing to see. And I think that's an opportunity where, I probably took away more than what they took away from me. I think for me, it was very much like, hey, this is a really cool idea. If you did this, we could sell it into this company tomorrow, and bringing more of that business sense, which was in some ways kind of sad because they were so passionate about what they were doing. But it's a super cool place. The work that comes out of the MIT Media Lab is really amazing. And I think it's because they create that environment where serendipity is at the forefront, constraints are at an all-time low, and you're given the permission and freedom to do and build what you're most passionate about.
Tell us a little bit more about your personal side. What do you like to do? Any Netflix things that you've been binging during this time?
So, I mean, for me, there's been, the pandemic is stressful for all of us. So at the very beginning, I could only watch like the Great British Bake Off because it was so it was so calming. Every night I'd watch an episode and it would just help me put the day behind me. And, so I binged all of that through the first part of the pandemic. And then we were in fall and I just started binging ski movies. And just watching as many ski movies as I could. Ski movies.
I want my $2. That movie was that. What was that one?
I watched that one.
Yeah.
I watched that one with my kids. But all of the ski and snowboard movies that come out in the fall, I watched all of those. One show that I was super surprised by was Ted Lasso. I thought, I don't know if either of you are into sports, but Ted Lasso, which is on Apple TV Plus. It's amazing, and it's perfect remedy for pandemic stress. So highly recommend it to.
I have not heard of that.
I haven't heard of Ted Lasso either. No, I'm a big sports guy. No,
it's great. Well, you probably remember it's Jason Sudeikis. He did that. He played that soccer coach who knows nothing about soccer as part of their community.
Yeah.
They turned that into a whole show. It's not anything that you would expect. It's really, really good.
Oh, that's awesome. I love Sudeikis. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah,
I love
the show's amazing.
I got to check that out. Yeah, the baking shows I never got into. I get into some of those Chef's Table.
Yeah.
I just Schitt's Creek was hysterical.
So good.
Did you finally wrap that up, AJ? That one?
I did. Yep, we managed to get through it in the Christmas break. So.
Great. I think I have like 2 episodes left. It's so good.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. My wife and I, we started watching. We just ended yesterday. Bridgerton.
How was it?
Did you heard of it? It's insane. It's amazing. I'm like, it's Shonda Rhimes, where I'm not really into like the Grey's Anatomy shows or anything like that, but I know they're successful. I know she's amazing. I was hooked. I'm like, this just looks like a soap opera sort of thing. It was amazing.
Good.
Watch Bridgerton is great, and The Queen's Gambit is amazing.
Yeah, that's on my list.
It is fantastic.
Oh, that is a great one. I actually did see that over Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's look at that. Netflix and Amazon, there's all these great services out there, and it keeps us through these times, right? It's been great. But when you're hitting the slopes again, Sam, that's a great socially distanced thing you could do?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I'll be back up this weekend. It's nice to be out. Feel pretty safe. So yeah, it's great.
That's awesome. And look, just that's our time. Look at that.
Awesome.
It flies by. We hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem. We enjoyed talking to you. Again, that is Sam Huston, Chief Strategy Officer, 3Q Digital. I am Vincent Petrofessa, the Vice President of B2B Products here at Stirista. That is Ajay Gupta, the CEO. This has been another episode of The Marketing Stir. Thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to bringing you more amazing content in 2021. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista. Please like, rate, and subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, email us at info@themarketingstir.com. And thanks for listening.